Our topic is on energy security. There are three types of energy sources, which are renewable, recyclable and non-renewable. Renewable energy refers to an energy source which is capable of natural regeneration on a human timescale. So, for example, this is like your wind power and your solar power, which is generally thought of as good because it is sustainable. Non-renewable energy refers to an energy source that is finite on a human timescale, which takes considerable periods of time to be replaced, and this is your fossil fuels such as coal and oil. Recyclable energy source refers to reprocessed energy such as nuclear, however this is viewed as hazardous and dangerous, so is very controversial. There are many factors which affect the distribution of energy reserves. For example, Russia and Eastern Europe tend to have high reserves of natural gas and coal, which leads to an energy surplus, so they export a lot of their oil to Europe. Unlike Russia, Europe is dependent on energy imports and has low energy efficiency, which means they have high energy waste. This in turn leads to energy insecurity. North America has large coal resources and the opportunity to exploit the Arctic. However, they could also be argued to be energy insecure as their energy consumption outweighs their energy supply. There are physical factors which affect energy resources, one being the climate. For example, the need to keep cool in hot countries by way of air conditioning significantly increases energy consumption. There's also the availability of energy, which is determined by the geology of the country. There's also local variations. For example, if you have solar panels, they will not be effective if there's cloud cover. There are also human factors which affect energy reserves, such as energy infrastructure. For example, in LEDCs they do not have the technology to extract oil. Also there's energy affordability, and again the poor lose out. So how can global energy security be defined? Well, it can be defined by the extent in which an affordable, reliable and stable energy supply can be achieved. There are many factors which affect energy security. For example, natural hazards such as earthquakes and tsunamis, political instability, dependency on imports, and then the cost of energy. There are many factors leading to increased consumption of energy. For example, population increase, the improved standards of living, industrialisation and economical development, and rural to urban migration. Now considering the impacts of energy security, we're moving on to energy pathways, which is the flow of energy from the producer to the consumer. Oil pathways include the Middle East, which export 4,000 barrels of oil to Japan, 2,000 barrels to Europe and 2,000 to North America. The former Soviet Union also exports 7,000 barrels. A popular gas pathway is the Trans-Siberian Pipeline, which goes from Russia to Europe. There are 5 main factors which make pathways vulnerable: the geopolitical connections between countries, war, strikes, natural disasters, and terrorism. An example of a vulnerable energy pathway would be Russia and Ukraine. In November 2004, the Ukraine changed their government to a more pro-Western than pro-Russian government. So in response, Russia quadrupled the price of gas to the Ukraine government refused to pay. Gazprom then cut the gas to the Ukraine, and as a result of this, the flow of gas to the rest of Europe dropped by 40% in some areas. This also highlighted Europe's reliance on Russia. The main player is Cartel, which is an association of producers and suppliers, and they just ensure trading prices, and an example of this would obviously be OPEC. There are 6 main factors contributing to global energy uncertainties in the future. First is the performance of the global economy, then the scale of population growth, the impact of rising living standards, undiscovered oil and gas reserves, discovery of new technologies, and the ability to switch to renewable energy. There are 3 main approaches to future energy insecurity: either do nothing, which will mean a 55% increase in CO2 emissions by 2030, and emissions from electricity generation will amount to 44% of global emissions by 2030. Alternatively, there is the multi-energy solution, which uses all 3 types of energy. However, it uses nuclear, which is controversial and expensive, but it would reduce CO2 levels. Finally, there is energy conservation. However, this requires large investment and could inhibit the growth of developing countries. However, it would decrease the amount of CO2 and extend the time that fossil fuels could be used. One current solution to global energy insecurity is the Kyoto Protocol, which is an agreement between countries to reduce CO2. However, the USA, a major superpower, did not sign the agreement.
Final destination. Oh, the earth is calling out. I wanna learn what it's all about, but everything I read is global warming, going green. I don't know what all this means.